The last class in this series is changing our mindsets by changing our behavior. This is the ultimate strategy. It is important to understand how our mindset affects our behavior, and we discussed this extensively in the last lecture. But ultimately, we have to change our behavior to reap the benefits of self-fulfilling prophecies, the optimistic mindset, and the growth mindset. As we saw when we looked at self-perception theory, there is one main strategy to become a more successful person: changing our behavior. We have to put ourselves on the line and leave our famous comfort zone. The idea of the comfort zone goes back to one of the classic experiments in psychology. More than 100 years ago, in 1908, two psychologists discovered that when they had mice running in a maze and giving them mild electrical shocks, they were faster to complete the maze. But when the shocks became too strong, the rats just randomly ran into every direction trying to escape. The lesson learned from this experiment is that increasing stress and arousal could help focus motivation and attention on the task, but only up to a certain point. The same has been found true for humans. If we are in a state of relative comfort, we perform at a steady level. But in order to maximize our performance and grow, we need a state of relative anxiety, a space where our stress levels are slightly higher than normal. This space is called optimal anxiety, or growth zone, and it's just outside our comfort zone. Too much anxiety and we're too stressed to be productive, and our performance drops sharply. Let me give you an example. Back in school, we used to be nervous before exams. But if we got too nervous, that would cause problems. An optimal level of nervousness and stress can help us focus on the test and remember the information that we studied better. But too much test anxiety can have us have a blackout and we don't remember anything. This would be the panic zone. Where we want to be is the growth zone. And when we are in the growth zone, we will see that over time we are expanding our comfort zone. And the goal is to reach that optimum level so that our skills increase and we become comfortable with this new level of anxiety. Then we're in the expanded comfort zone. You'll see that as you challenge yourself, your comfort zone adjusts and what was difficult before becomes more easier as you repeat it. And as we get more used to those feelings of, let's call it, productive discomfort, it won't be so scary to try new things in the future. Of course, there are things we can do that help us step out of our comfort zone. The first thing to remember is to take one step at a time. Start small. The change process doesn't happen in one step, but in many, many small steps. You do one thing different in the right direction, and that's what behaviorists call successive approximations. One step leads to another. With each step you take, you perceive yourself as someone who does go outside your comfort zone. Remember about self-perception theory. We learn about ourselves by looking at our behavior. So if we step outside of our comfort zone, we perceive ourselves as a person who steps outside of our comfort zone, and we infer, oh, I must be a person who does this kind of things. So when you move into your growth zone by trying something new and you don't, die, it's kind of reinforcing. It's reassuring. It's encouraging. It might even help you to get in your growth zone the next time, and the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. Here I also want to remind you of neuroplasticity. When we get outside of our comfort zone, we start creating new pathways in our brain. And those pathways or connections grow stronger only over time. As we continue to go outside our comfort zone, these pathways are reinforced and these connections grow. What else can we do to make leaving our comfort zone easier? One such help is finding a role model. Because one thing we know is that people don't attempt to achieve something unless they believe it can be done. We know that people are much more likely to attempt to do things if they've seen that someone like them can do it. First, we need to know that something can be done. And then we need to know that we can do it. And role models can help us with both of these points. They are the obvious proof that some things can be done. And when you then go and bring the right mindset to your life, then you are ready to grow beyond what you could have imagined before. Speaking of the right mindset, we also have to learn to fail. Please keep in mind there is no foolproof recipe for success. That doesn't exist. And failures and setbacks will inevitably occur if we really try and move out of our comfort zone. The key is to bring a growth mindset to these failures. Seeing failures as part of the learning process. Seeing failures as learning from them, as sources of information. We will take a closer look at how to learn to fail in the last section when we talk about dealing with the negatives. We will learn how to reframe failures and how to handle them effectively. And last but not least, if you really don't feel ready yet to go outside of your comfort zone, you can try to visualize it. Visualization can be a great tool. In psychology research, it's often called mental imagery, and it's used a lot in sports. It has been proven that people can improve performance through visualizing their actions, because action and imagination often activate the same parts of our brain. When we need to learn a new physical skill, mental practice of this skill can produce the same physical changes in our motor system as the physical practice. Your brain simply doesn't know the difference. For example, researchers looked at the brains of weightlifters. They found that the patterns in their brain that are activated when they lifted hundreds of pounds were almost the same patterns as when they only imagined it. Research showed that mental practices can be almost as effective as true physical exercise, and that doing both is more effective than doing either of them. A great study done in this area brought in two groups of people. One of the groups were instructed to go to the gym. They carried out real workouts in the gym, and the other group carried out virtual workouts in their heads. The researchers found that the group who went to the gym had 30% muscle increase. And the group of people who only imagined that they were doing weight training had muscle increase almost half as much, about 15%. And this remained like this for the next 3 months. So simply by imagining that you're doing weightlifting, your muscles grow. This form of mental rehearsal has been popular since the Soviets started using it back in the 1970s. They used it in sports. Nowadays, many athletes all across the world employ this technique, and almost every world-class athlete uses visualization. The brain is getting trained for actual performance during visualization. It has been found that regular mental practices can enhance motivation, increase our confidence and our persistence, and improve our performance. All these things are relevant for achieving our best life. And in order for you to do this, I want to introduce you to a practice called Best Possible Self. It's a writing exercise, and for this exercise, you need about 20 minutes a day for 4 days. But this is again flexible, and you can do it as you please. Think about your life in the future. Imagine that everything has gone as well as it possibly could. You have worked hard and you succeeded at accomplishing all your life's goals. Think of this as the realization of all your life dreams. Think about all the aspects of your life, your home, work, relationships, leisure activities, etc., etc. Now, write about what you imagined. And before we end this lecture, I want to finish off with a final sentence. Remember that in the end it always comes down to our actions. Visualization can be a helpful tool, but in the end we have to take action.